What if the bravest thing that a family can do is simply exist? Hi there, I'm Chris with a K, and welcome back to This Week in Queer History, where we celebrate queer moments and icons that I wish I had known about as a young gay kid growing up in conservative America. Today, we're stepping into the living rooms, playgrounds, and kitchen tables to follow the journey of LGBTQ parents and their kids, and how love kept showing up in a world and little by little changed the law to match.
This week in queer history, stories told with love and glee.
In the mid-20th century, being an openly queer parent often meant hiding in plain sight. Courts routinely branded gay and lesbian parents as unfit, and custody of their kids could be ripped away if the wrong person found out. But even then, cracks of light appeared. In 1956, the Daughters of Billetist hosted discussion groups on lesbian motherhood. This was radical at the time, putting mother and lesbian in the same sentence. Just mind-blowing. And in 1968, California's Bill Jones became one of the first gay men to adopt a child. He was warned to keep his identity secret, but he wouldn't. And so he adopted and became a visible advocate. In San Francisco, Del Martin and Pat Norman co-founded the Lesbian Mothers Union in 1971, and they did this to support mothers facing legal persecution and separation. And within 2 years, the group had more than 100 members. Then came a mother with a message, Jean Manford, marching beside her son at New York City Pride in 1972 with a sign that read, "Parents of gays, unite in support for our children." That moment sparked the first Parents of Gays meeting in 1973, a church basement circle that grew into PFLAG, an ally network that would become a lifeline for countless families. Then the laws started to change. In 1972, Camille Mitchell became the first openly lesbian mother in California to win custody. In 1974, a New Jersey judge ruled that a father's homosexuality alone wasn't reason to deny visitation. In 1976, Washington, D.C. barred judges from deciding custody based solely on sexual orientation, a simple policy with enormous human consequences. And in 1978, the Washington State Supreme Court issued the nation's first high court ruling, allowing a lesbian couple, Sandy Schuster and Madeline Isaacson, to keep custody together. Expert testimony, including from Margaret Mead, showed everyone what their children had already made clear. They were healthy, happy, normal, and loving. And that same year, ABC aired A Question of Love, a made-for-TV film about a lesbian mother's custody fight, complete with on-screen warnings, as if love needed parental discretion. But for many viewers, it was the first humane portrayal of a queer family on television. By the mid-1980s, courts grew more reluctant to remove children just because a parent was gay or lesbian. In 1985, California recognized one of the first second-parent adoptions, allowing a non-biological lesbian partner to adopt without severing the birth mother's rights. And this translated into everyday security, school pickups without explanation, medical forms signed without panic, fewer nightmares about what if. And none of this happened in a vacuum. The Lesbian Mothers National Defense Fund raised money and found lawyers. The Lesbian Rights Project, today's National Center for Lesbian Rights, they mapped legal strategy. And PFLAG, they filled court pews and living rooms. They were the bodyguards that relentlessly defended these families from the onslaught of resistance. Visibility and recognition expanded in the 1990s and 2000s. In 1997, New Jersey became the first state to explicitly allow statewide joint adoption by same-sex couples, which nudged others to follow. Even Florida, famous for its 1977 ban on adoptions by gay people, saw a 2010 court decision acknowledging the research. Queer people parent just as well, and their kids are just as healthy and well-adjusted. At the Supreme Court, 2 decisions reshaped daily life. United States versus Windsor in 2013, which recognized the harms inflicted on children when their families lacked equal recognition, and Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015, which made marriage equality the law of the land, opening the door to joint adoption nationwide. When some states questioned birth certificates, Pavin versus Smith in 2017 said equal means equal, requiring married same-sex couples to receive the same birth record treatment. Bureaucracy sucks, but it matters. Because when the school nurse asks for parent 2, it helps that all government forms match. Paperwork caught up elsewhere too. In 2011, US passport applications shifted to Parent 1 and Parent 2, acknowledging families beyond mother and father. Abroad, the momentum echoed. In 2008, the European Court of Human Rights ruled that a qualified candidate couldn't be excluded from adopting because of sexual orientation, an opinion with ripple effects across the region. But progress is never a straight line. In Fulton versus the City of Philadelphia in 2021, the Supreme Court sided with a Catholic agency that refused to certify LGBTQ foster parents, citing religious freedom. The decision didn't detonate existing precedent, but it was a reminder that rights often live and die in the fine print of contracts and policies, and that vigilance is part of family life too. But through it all, the research has been consistent. LGBTQ parents are just as capable as straight parents, and their children are as healthy and well-adjusted. Agencies that stigmatize queer parents don't just hurt applicants, they deprive children of loving homes. And as more data came in, community infrastructure grew to match. The Gay Fathers Coalition, formed during the 1979 March on Washington, later expanding to include lesbian mothers and eventually becoming Family Equality, a national advocacy group that moved from whispered phone trees to polished policy briefs. Culture shifted as well. In 2009, the White House issued a proclamation recognizing family diversity. Policy shows culture, and culture follows policy. Meanwhile, at PTA meetings and pediatrician offices, two moms and two dads slowly stopped being characters and started being neighbors, asking whose turn it was to bring Thursday snacks. The barriers still remain. International adoption policies and domestic agency practices can still push queer applicants towards heteronormative boxes. It's exhausting and it's unnecessary. If only they would look at the data and the diaper changes. These parents are doing just fine. And if we zoom out and look at the arc of this story, we can see that the shift has moved from prove you're not harmful to we see your family as a family. From silence to advocacy, from parent discretion advised to Parent 1 and Parent 2. It's not just legal progress. It's the sound of kids growing up more stable, with more truth and more love. And here's where history meets my own driveway. When I was young, my parents divorced and remarried, and overnight, my world doubled. The head count soared. The noise level followed, and somewhere in that mad swirl, I also gained another dad, a stepdad who didn't make a grand entrance so much as he made himself quietly, reliably present. He showed up with socket wrenches and endless stories, bad puns, and plenty of good advice. He helped me with my physics problems, taught me how to change a tire and my oil, and did it all with patience that said, "You're worth the time." He wasn't loud about love. He was consistent about it. And in that consistency, I learned the difference between being related and being there. The real magic of family isn't found in someone's DNA. It's found over the many times that they show up for each other. Who they are on an ordinary Tuesday or a sunny afternoon in the backyard. My stepdad modeled fatherhood as a practice. Gentle, consistent, and curious. He never tried to replace anyone. He just built something with us kids. Brick by steady brick, joke by grown-worthy joke. And from him, I learned that belonging doesn't arrive like confetti from the ceiling. It arrives in repetition, rides to schools, explanations that don't make you feel small, a hand on your shoulder when you don't have the right words yet. Love as presence, not as performance. That's the lens that I carry when I look at queer families. When I see two moms trading snacks and smiles as their daughter plays at the park, or I see two dads double knotting tiny shoelaces before their son's first day of school, or when I see trans and non-binary parents modeling truth for their kids so as they grow up, they feel bold and enabled to live their truth as they see it. Sometimes those parents share genetics with their children and sometimes they don't. But still, they give everything. And I feel so much joy watching them as they do this, because it's one thing to inherit a role, but it's another thing completely to choose to do it daily in a world that often asks us to prove that we belong. And yes, there are so many ways that families are forming these days. Adoption, IVF, surrogacy, fostering, and each path is a tapestry of logistics and feelings, of paperwork and huge heart. But under every path runs the same current that my stepdad taught me. Show up. Show up for the bedtime stories and the dentist appointments, for the hard talks and the sillier ones, for the moment a teacher calls, and for the bigger moments like when a child calls you dad or mom. And that's not about DNA, that's about devotion. When I see queer parents fight stereotypes or outdated forms that still haven't adapted to progress, I think of the man who chose me, the courage that it took to say, I'm here again and again, even when the world threw up hurdles. That's the courage that builds true families. And from those families comes kids who feel wanted, homes with goofy in-jokes, and futures built solid on ordinary kindness. I don't have kids, and I don't plan to, but I do believe in villages. And I believe in being the extra adult who shows up, who claps too loud at the play, who brings snacks when the parents' tanks are empty, who asks, how was your day? Like the answer matters. My stepdad taught me that the deepest definition of us is not made by chromosomes, but by contact. Queer families live that truth out loud. They don't just raise children, they raise resilience and widen the circle of who counts. If there's a lesson that I hold dear to me, it is this. Family isn't an accident or arrival. It's the practice of return. And every time I watch queer parents build that practice, genetics or not, I see my dad's steady hands in theirs, turning the wrench, turning the page, turning love into the solid ground a child can stand on. If this video made you think of a memory from your family, drop a comment below. I read and respond to all of them. And you can also get some more queer history by clicking this video popping up right over here. And if you want to know what queer icons or events happen on your birthday, you can always check out myqueerbirthday.com. Link is down in the description below. Until next time, stay strong, stay bold, and keep making history.